Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This is the last instruction. The Justice said, the freedom of religion is not to be abridged because it is unconventional in beliefs and practices, or because it is approved or disapproved by the mainstream of society or more conventional religions. Without this proliferation and freedom to follow the dictates of one's own conscience in the search of approach to God, the freedom of religion will be a meaningless right as provided for in the Constitution. Any attempt, be it direct, well-intentioned or not, presents a clear and present danger to this most fundamental, basic, and eternally needed right of our citizens, freedom of religion. The Hare Krishna movement has been under pressure from various groups, and this judgment is expected to stop some of the harassment in which it has been subjected in recent months. My mission is now successful, said Srila Prabhupada. In 1965, I went there. This is now recognized after 12 years. I was loitering in the street alone, carrying the books. Nobody cared. Krishna is wonderful, always. He is the most wonderful person, and he can do anything wonderful. Srila Prabhupada continued to make appreciative remarks about the judge's decision. He said he had feared the case might have been taken 14 years, and yet it had not even taken 14 hours. Krishna was so wonderful. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 18, entitled Diti vows to kill King Indra, and we are on text 63. Okay, I'm going to run through, and then I'll do the Sanskrit when I get to. O king, being very much aggrieved, they pleaded to Indra with folded hands, saying, Dear Indra, we're the Maruts, your brothers. Why are you trying to kill us? When Indra saw that they were actually his devoted followers, he said to them, If you're all my brothers, you have nothing more to fear from me. Shukadeva Goswami said, My dear King Parikshit, you were burned by the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama, but when Lord Krishna entered the womb of your mother, you were saved. Similarly, although the one embryo was cut into 49 pieces by the thunderbolt of Indra, they were all saved by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original person, even once, he receives the benefit of being promoted to the spiritual world and possessing the same bodily features as Vishnu. Wow, let's all go and take a rest then. Diti worshipped Lord Vishnu for almost 1 year, adhering to a great vow. Because of such strength in spiritual life, the 49 Maruts were born. How then is it wonderful that the Maruts, although born from the womb of Diti, became equal to the demigods by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Because of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Diti was completely purified. When she got up from bed, she saw her 49 sons along with Indra. These 49 sons were as brilliant as fire and were in friendship with Indra, and therefore she was very pleased. Thereafter, Diti said to Indra, My dear son, I adhered to this difficult vow just to get a son to kill you. 12 Adityas. I prayed for only one son, but now I see that there are 49. How has this happened? My dear son Indra, if you know, please tell me the truth. Do not try to speak lies. Indra replied, My dear mother, because I was grossly blinded by selfish interests, I lost sight of religion. When I understood that you were observing a great vow in spiritual life, I wanted to find some fault in you. When I found such a fault, I entered your womb and cut the embryo to pieces. Okay, so this is the one. Okay, so we'll run through the Sanskrit. Indra uvacha ambateham vyafasitam upadaya gato nitikam labantaro chidam gabam atir buddhe nadamadrik Indra uvacha ambateham vyafasitam upadarya gato niktitam Labantaro chidam kabam. Atebode nadamadrik. Okay, are you waiting for it to come up? Okay. You want to do it from there? Indruvacha ambateyam vyasitam upadarya gato nikam labadantaro chidam gavam atabodena damadrik. Anyone want to try from memory? Okay, so Indra Uvacha. Indra said, Amba Te Yo Aham I Vyavasitam Vow Upadariya understanding Agata came Antikam nearby Labda having found Antara a fault Achidam I cut Gabam the embryo Atabudi being self-interested Na not Dharmadrik possessing vision of religion. Indra replied, my dear mother, because I was grossly blinded by selfish interests, I lost sight of religion. When I understood that you were observing a great vow in spiritual life, I wanted to find some fault in you. When I found such a fault, I entered your womb and cut the embryo to pieces. Responsively, please. Indra replied, my dear mother, because I was grossly blinded by selfish interests, I lost sight of religion. When I understood that you were observing a great vow in spiritual life, I wanted to find some fault in you. When I found such a fault, I entered your womb and cut the embryo to pieces. When Diti, Indra's aunt, explained to Indra without reservations what she had wanted to do, Indra explained his intentions to her. Thus both of them, instead of being enemies, freely spoke the truth. This is the qualification that results from contact with Vishnu. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yajyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana savai gunas tatra samasate sura. If one develops a devotional attitude and becomes purified by worshipping the Supreme Lord, all the good qualities are certainly manifested in his body. Because of being touched by worship of Vishnu, both Diti and Indra were purified. Om Jnana Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhattarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikalpatruvishcha Kripatsinubhyevacha Paritnam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So Indra is admitting his intentions, and also Diti has admitted her intentions. So everyone's becoming honest. Everyone's putting their cards on the table, and so the relationship can heal. And because they've both become purified, then they've become friends. So one of the side benefits of falling in love with Krishna is that you fall in love with all of Krishna's parts and parcels, and then you bear no enmity, because everyone's your brother and sister. We're all one big happy family. That's what they say, isn't it? Hey, yo, bro. how's it going, bro? And everyone's trying to be like friendly. Like we're all bros. So Prabhupada quotes the Bhagavad Gita: wherever there is Krishna, there will be opulence, extraordinary power, morality, and vegetable chopping. So Yogeshvara, the master of all mystics, can do anything and everything he likes. This is the omnipotence of the Lord. One who pleases the Lord, no achievement is wonderful, and everything is possible for him. So there's a story, isn't there, of the Brahmins' wives, and they were afraid to go back because they'd run out to Krishna and brought him all kinds of ingredients to make a feast. And they knew the husbands weren't going to be too happy, according to Vedic culture. So they said, there's no point us trying to go back now. Our husbands will have rejected us. We'll just live in the forest here with you. So Krishna assured them. He said, no, you go back. I'm in their hearts, and I'll make sure that they're okay about it. So that would pose the question, how much independence did the living entity have? When Kamsa was thinking of killing Draupadi, he was weighing up all the pros and cons, and the superstar in his heart kept saying, you can't do this, okay, I know we're bad, but we're not that bad. Come on, So although he wanted to, his conscience wouldn't allow him to. So it's interesting, isn't it, that even if someone is demoniac as Kamsa, who's completely against Krishna, can still be dictated by the Lord in the heart. What to speak of a devotee that's trying to follow what he wants. And so both Diti and Indra, being guided by the Lord in the heart, give up their enmity towards each other and become friends. So Krishna wants everyone to learn to love each other. And that's how you'll show your love. Srila Prabhupada said, you'll show your love for me by how you cooperate. So if you say, I love Srila Prabhupada, but I just cannot stand the devotees. They just get on my nerves so much. They're just so annoying. And it means you don't really love Srila Prabhupada. So how to be proactively appreciative of all living entities. And we're going to get a chance today because we'll be going out and distributing books and Harinam, and we'll be giving people a chance to hear the holy names and share the great fortune that we have. Normally when you have a great fortune, you keep the fortune and you don't let anybody else see it. There was a man actually, he had a great fortune, and he was so stingy that he didn't even want to keep it in the bank, because then the bank's got it. He wanted to keep it all himself. So he kept it himself, and he had so much money. He had all these different safes, and he had all the money deposited in different safes. And every now and again, he had this big bunch of keys. And every now and again, he would go around and he would open the safes and have a look at the money and count it and put it back and then lock it again, And when he was dying, he was going, keys, keys, keys. And somebody says, what's wrong? And they said, yeah, I think he wants the keys. So they gave him the bunch of keys. And when he held the bunch of keys, he went, and then he died. So that's how a creep and a miserly person deals with his wealth. But a devotee, he shares it. He gives all his wealth out. And because Krishna is ampanam adapanamidam, he's always perfect and complete, then not only has he got the same amount, but he's got more. So the more you give Krishna, the more you get Krishna. Any questions or comments? I think Dayananda's got one. Yeah. Oh, yeah?
We should, here Prabhupada said that we should be, that we should, what was the word?
Be cooperative.
Cooperative, yes. Does tolerate mean that we're being cooperative? If we're just tolerating another person, we're just, okay, this person rubbed me the wrong way, I don't see eye back with this person, I'm just going to tolerate him.
Well, there's a qualifier for that, isn't it? Krishna says you have to tolerate without being disturbed. So that's a little bit, we all have to tolerate, really. We don't really have much choice. So we already have to do that. But the qualifier is, can you tolerate without being disturbed? So, I mean, it's definitely a step in the right direction, because at least you're not punching him. But then the next stage is, okay, so how do I go from tolerating and at the same time grinding my teeth to tolerating him and not being disturbed, to tolerating him and appreciating him? So you've got a spectrum there of tolerance. Tolerance in the mode of ignorance, tolerance in the mode of passion, and then tolerance in the mode of goodness. And tolerance is, it could be a passive state of mind, or it could be a proactive state of mind. So if it's going to be proactive, then you're going to tolerate. Like there's two things. There's the principle of whether you're right or whether you're wrong, and then there's the higher principle of the relationship. And if you're going to establish that you're right and the other person's wrong, and the other person becomes disturbed, then you've sacrificed the relationship just to win the argument, which means ultimately you've lost the argument, because the real argument is, are you going to resist your conditioned nature, which doesn't interact so well with him, or are you going to give in to your conditioned nature, and then you've lost, even if you've won the argument. And it's quite interesting, if you find it really hard to tolerate something in somebody, like say a person's overweight and he sees somebody eating a massive chocolate cake, then that's really upsetting him, because he would love to eat the chocolate cake too. And because he knows he can't control his tongue, and that's why he's overweight, this person eating the chocolate cake is just reminding him. So then he becomes annoyed and agitated. So they say if you can spot it, it means you've got it. Somebody else is in the room with the person eating the chocolate cake, and he's as thin as a rake, and he's not bothered at all. He's thinking, well, must be a good chocolate cake. He's eating the whole cake. It's not, but he's not bothered at all. So generally, the reason why we're finding it difficult to tolerate somebody else is because they have a quality that we have, and they're reminding us of that quality, and it's upsetting us and disturbing us. I remember at the manor, this was years ago now, Devotee was singing, and it was he wasn't singing very well. And I went over and I kind of went like that and bopped him out the way and got the microphone. And I started singing, and I couldn't remember the tune. And I was as bad, if not worse, than him, Krishna just took it away. It's like, okay, so the reason you were upset is because you can't sing. So now you're going to try and get him to do what you can't do anyway, rather than seeing the real problem isn't him, the real problem is you, And that's why blame is it's a tragic expression of unmet needs. And it's tragic because you will never get your needs met by blaming people. It's so counterproductive. There's no way the person's going to feel that he wants to respond to you compassionately. If you're blaming him, he'll just go into self-defense mode. It's the most strongest animalistic propensity is to defend. And it's just a knee-jerk reaction. You just defend without even realizing you're doing it. So if you're blaming and shaming, then you're becoming defeated in the objective. The objective is to cultivate living relationships with devotees. That's what we're here for.
So what if it's not a person that you're tolerating with situation?
Yeah, well, they say the grossest manifestation of the modes of material nature is the weather. So generally when the weather's sunny, everyone's like, yeah, let's go out and Sankirtan, Hari Nam, Hari Bo, But when the weather's not good, oh no, I've got a hole in my sock and my back's really sore, I don't think I can face it, So that's like the grossest manifestation of the modes of nature. If you can't rise above that, then you're really in the ABCs of spiritual life. And then things get more subtle as you go on. the path narrows and starts becoming more, start becoming more aware of attitudes that you have that are not conducive and they're making you react in this way. And so you have to learn not just how to tolerate things, but learn how to see Krishna's loving hand in everything that's going on in your life, Krishna's arrangement. When they say, oh, it's Krishna's arrangement, Prabhu, it's usually only Krishna's arrangement if there's an extra sweet ball on your plate, or the clocks went forward and everyone forgot and you slept an extra hour. But if it goes wrong and a sweet ball rolls off your plate and you forgot to set the clocks and you've got to go up an hour earlier, then it's not Krishna's arrangement anymore. Yes? What to do?
How can we tolerate people who are doing wrong to our friends or our family?
Yeah, well, that is a challenge, isn't it? How to tolerate people who are being maybe unfair to our friends. They say everyone's friend is nobody's friend. Anyone like to explain that? Everyone's friend is no one's friend. What does that mean?
This phrase that I've heard in social justice if you're neutral on the side of oppression, you're on the side of the oppressor.
Yeah.
So if you're being friendly to just anybody and everybody, then the people who are doing wrong, you're actually favoring them.
Yeah.
You're not pointing out their mistakes.
Do you know where that comes up in the Gita, where Krishna is talking about by not acting, you're getting the reaction, and by acting, you're not getting a reaction? Yeah. So inaction in action, and action in inaction. So if you stand there and let a woman get oppressed by some men and they abuse her, and you say, well, I sorry, I can't step in, I'm non-violent, then you get a reaction. And if you step in and hit them on the head with a cricket bat, then you get no reaction. So inaction in action, and action in inaction. Although you've not done anything, you're getting a reaction for it. And although you've done something, you're not getting a reaction for it.
A question, do these people who are offensive or even like atheists, do we need to learn to appreciate that, to love that?
Non-devotees. Offensive. Yeah, offensive. When things start going offensive, then probably the best strategy is refer to the spiritual master. Ask the spiritual masters. So you've got a group of devotees, and they're not getting on so well with each other, and some of them are your friends, and some of them you feel it's unfair the way your friends are being treated. So then, rather than getting involved and implicated, the best thing is just, okay, let's bring in the Guru Maharajas here. What does my Guru Maharaj think? What does your Guru Maharaj think? Just take it up another level. And then if someone is not following what the spiritual master wants, and the spiritual master has said, I'm not pleased with the way this person is acting, then, okay, let it take its course, and they'll get due reactions. Yes.
I mean, I was just thinking about the sentence you said, everyone's friend is someone's friend. Actually, in chapter 11:55, Krishna says that everyone who's friendly to everyone around, he and me.
Yeah. So what about that then? If I heard a devotee, a Maharaj, say, everyone's friend is no one's friend. And then at the same time, Krishna is saying, we have to be friendly to every living entity. But you'd have to qualify, yeah.
There's an expression, be cool to be kind. So sometimes if you're being friendly to somebody, it's not necessarily that you're being sweet and nice.
Yeah.
You're pointing out, this is incorrect.
Yeah.
That's actually the highest welfare. It's the same house.
Yeah.
If you're in a position to be able to do that, not that I could have done it.
Yeah.
That's the right person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice point. Very nice. Yeah. And that's what Krishna does to Arjuna, isn't it? He says, you're speaking learned words, but you're talking like a fool. And then he relieves. So you would think, well, that wasn't very friendly. I thought you were supposed to be friends. You could have patted him on the back and said, have a read of a BTG and have a cup of herbal tea, and I'll sort it out. Don't worry, I'm your friend. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, he says, Krishna didn't say to Arjuna, you sit and smoke ganja, I will take care of the war. Well, I can do anything and everything. But interestingly enough, they were having an argument at the end of the war, and Barbarak was the head of Bhima's grandson, Gotakasha's son, and he'd had his head taken off, which is another story again, but it was put on the tree, and he saw everything that was going on. And they said, who was the hero of the war? Was it Bhima or was it Arjuna? And Barbarak was laughing, And he said, it was neither of them. He said, I could see the Sudarshan, and the Sudarshan was going around killing everybody, and they were just getting the credit for killing them, but it was the Sudarshan that was killing everybody. And he said, if you want to know who the hero of the war is Krishna. He was the one that killed everyone. So that is definitely an art, being able to appreciate what would seem like the person doesn't seem very friendly, but actually he's safeguarding you against something, and so he is being your friend. He's helping you not to go down a path which will be inauspicious for you. So it's interesting because Srila Prabhupada didn't tell us so much about psychology, but it's very useful to know how relationships work, how to communicate non-violently to people, and how to maintain a friendly attitude, a compassionate attitude towards people, but at the same time instructing them. Like if someone slams the door, you could say, you idiot, why did you slam the door? If you do that again, I'll have you on the chopping board with the potato. So the person's like, he feels insulted, threatened, intimidated. But you could also say to my dear Prabhu, I have a nervous disorder, and if I hear even a pin drop, it sends me into tremors. What to speak of the door slamming? I am overwhelmed with a tsunami of anxiety. Could you please stop it before I have a heart attack? And then the person thinks, yeah, no problem, So if you can let people know how your feelings and your needs are not being met, then they don't have to feel that they're being attacked. And then you've got much more chance of getting the door to be closed quietly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was this one devotee who was really, really humble, and we used to try and have a humble competition with him and try and out-humble him. And he'd say, Prabhu, I'm so... and say, you're so rotten, I'm completely, at least you're there for Mangalati. I don't even make it for Mangalati. The only reason I make it for Mangalati is because I've got so much false ego. I want people to think that I'm something great. At least you're honest. He'd always out-humble you. So that's how devotees, instead of devotees competing to be better than each other, they're competing to be more unworthy of each other, more disqualified, We're proactively using our intelligence to see. And that's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says, nobody can hurt you unless you hurt yourself. When you find faults in others, look to yourself instead and find faults in yourself. So when you're concentrating on yourself and your own shortcomings, you're safe. But when you're concentrating on other people's shortcomings and their faults, then you're harming yourself. You'll find that devotees that are very critical have very poor sadhana generally, because that's how they get damaged. They lose the enthusiasm to chant and follow the regs. Well, basically what happens is if you lose your enthusiasm to chant, you will lose the ability to follow the 4 regs of principles. That goes hand in hand. So if you find yourself becoming critical, immediately just turn the mirror back on yourself and say, well, am I chanting Shuddhanam? Nope. Am I more humble than a blade of grass? Nope. Okay, so I've got plenty of work here to be getting on with. And then nobody can harm you. Only if you harm yourself. Which is interesting because somebody could go up and say, "You idiot! Look at the way you're chopping the potatoes. That's terrible. Look at the size of them. And if you say, "Who do you think you're talking to?" then you're hurting yourself. But if you say, "Oh, Prabhu, I'm so sorry. Thank you for that. I'll try and improve," then you're not harming yourself. But that is kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? It's not our default in the material world. We're all fighting for every piece of carrot we can chop. We want that piece of carrot framed and hung in the temple room. This carrot was chopped by Devi Dasi, 2023, on the Saturday morning of the 27th of May. So anyway, that takes training, takes time to do that. That's the direction we're heading in anyway. Or should be. Jananda, you got a question? Jananda? Oh, you got a question? No, I thought you had a question there for a minute. And that's why Srila Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction, Dadati Patiginati Guyamakiti Prichati Bhungtai Boji Cheva Sadvadim Pratilakshanam. He says that this ISKCON has been created to facilitate the 6 living exchanges between devotees, giving and receiving gifts, revealing one's mind and inquiring confidentially, offering prasad and accepting prasad. They're the 6 living exchanges. And when they're singing that song, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. What it means is, what the world needs now, what ISKCON needs now, and the world, is these 6 living exchanges. It's the only thing that is just too love. And the good thing about going out and preaching is you maybe don't realize sometimes the good fortune that you've got, but when you go out and you help others that are really, collapsing with stress, going out the kitchen on a stretcher type stress, life-threatening stress, and then you realize our lives are pretty much recreational all the way through. Everything we're doing is recreational, It's not like, could you imagine 50 people in a factory all offering arti? They all have to offer, they clock in. How many artis? I've got to do 50 artis today. I'm getting overtime for it though. And then they're ringing the bell. And they're looking at their watch. 49 to go. But it's not like that with us, is it? It's recreational. We're thinking of Krishna. We're thinking, I'm going to be home soon. Wow, can't wait. Harry Ball, and we're ringing the bell and offering things, or cutting the potato. Every time you cut a potato, that's a step closer to Krishna, or a carrot. But with a potato, you get 3 times more advancement than a carrot. And sprouts are the highest because they're the smelliest. So Prabhupada was saying that just recently. He said there was a Mataji picking flowers to make garlands. She says every time she picks a flower, she goes a little bit closer to Krishna. Whereas in the factory, it's just ugra karma, it's just soul destroying. Every lever and button you're pressing in the factory is just a step further away. So it's like soul destroying. How do we move away? Because the living entity always has his minute independence that's never taken away from him. So if I put you inside this room and I put iron bars all around the room and then say you're free to stay in the room, you say, well, I'm not really free, am I? Because I can't get out. I'm not free to stay in the room. And so then Krishna says, okay, I'll make a door here and you can get out whenever you like. And now you're free to stay in the room. And then you, for whatever reason, I mean, Lord Chaitanya says somehow or other. I think when he says somehow or other, he's saying, like, don't get into it. Just get out the room. Get out the ocean. Somehow or other, I've fallen into this ocean. Please pick me up. And generally, if you're in an ocean, right, and you're drowning and someone comes over, you don't start saying, listen, hold it, before you throw the rope out, can we just figure this out a minute? I mean, how did I fall in the ocean? I just want to work it out. But if you're drowning at the time, you're just going to grab the rope and get out. You're not going to be too concerned about how you got in. You can figure that one out once you, in fact, you know that once you get out, along with getting out, will come the knowledge of how you fell in the first place. It may be that right now you can't comprehend. The consciousness is not developed enough to really comprehend how it is that you fell. So you just say somehow or other. And then once you're out, then you'll know what happened. And Prabhupada says, once bitten, twice shy. Once you're out the material world, you won't be going back ever again. It can happen, he says, because you never lose your independence, but it's extremely, extremely practically unheard of. Somehow or other. So every time the mind says, but how did we? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that's the seed of all doubts. Is the first question is, at what time did I fall into the material world? And then you come onto the time factor, past, present, and future. I'm in the present now. Sometime in the past, I fell. Sometime in the future, I'll get out. When will I get out? When did I fall? And he says, as soon as you fall onto the time factor, then all types of questions come up. Questions lead to doubts, which lead to arguments, and arguments lead to anarthas. And only if you become situated in the eternal present can you get free from that time factor and all the arguments and doubts and anarthas that accrue. Because in the eternal, the experience of being in the eternal present is that it's an acceptance of right now what's happening. You know, you're not dragged away into conjecturing and speculating about things. You're just here right now, and that's all you're dealing with. You know. So to fully understand the answer to that question, you'll have to wait until you get out. I'm sure it won't be long. At the rate you're chopping potatoes. Any other questions or comments? You must have a little one, Jayananda, a little question about life in general, the ups and downs of spiritual life. So what's the best way to cultivate our ability to appreciate devotees? Glorify devotees. That's what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to do. If there was two devotees that are loggerheads, he'd get them to stand up in a public assembly and say, you glorify him, and now you glorify him. How do you glorify them? Well, it may embarrass them if you glorify them in front of themselves, but so you may glorify them in appreciating the service that they're doing. Like Rupa Goswami says, Dristai Swabhava Janati Vapasasta Doshana Prakritatami Havakta Janashipashi Ganganga Samna Kola Buddha Defena Pankia Brahmadarvatam Abhagachati Niradama. He says, overlook the faults. They're just bubble. And but for one who's advanced in spiritual consciousness, he'll bathe in the Ganga without considering the condition of the water. In the same way, We can bathe in the association of devotees without considering, whether his dhoti is on straight, or he offered the arti with very neat circles, or he cut the potatoes very evenly. But despite all that, you push through all that external, superficial, and you grasp the significance, the rarity of a person accepting God and giving his life to God. First of all, it's rare that people accept God. And then out of those 1 in 100, those that are giving their life to God is maybe 1 in 1,000. So that's very rare. It's like if you met a film star, you'd be like, wow, I just met Brad Pitt. But Brad Pitt is not as rare as a devotee. There's a lot more Brad Pitts than there are devotees. I can see questions almost formulated here. Sometimes the question formulates just by asking it. So Srila Prabhupada ends very positively, on a very positive note. He says, the Lord is omnipotent, and if you please him, then no achievement is wonderful. So it's interesting that if you're praying for something, but at the same time you don't really think it's possible, then you really diminish your prayer power. But if you're praying and you're fully convinced that this can happen, then you've got much more chances of the prayer being answered. Prayer power. So the power of your prayer is determined by your level of faith. So you can pray, and if you're praying for others, then the prayer's more powerful as well than if you're praying for yourself. Praying for others, yeah. If you're praying for others' welfare, and also Satyanandan Swami is saying one of the side benefits of chanting Shuddha Nam is that your relationships with everybody improves automatically just by chanting purely. And when we're in a community, we're not getting our karma via non-devotees. We're getting our karma quite a lot of the time via devotees. That day somebody was supposed to be rude to you, but you're not at the factory anymore, you're living in a temple. And so a devotee seems to be quite rude to you, and you think, okay, it had to come through someone. So you have to be quite tolerant, because when you're in the community of devotees, they're acting as the vehicle for your karma. So Prabhupada saying, if you please the Supreme Lord, no achievement is wonderful. Everything is possible for him. Everything is, and the him is with a small h. So everything is possible for him, meaning everything is possible for the Lord's devotee. Everything. And Srila Prabhupada was just saying that, wasn't he, in the Leela Amrita? He wasn't expecting. He said, now our mission is successful. They've been accepted by the justice person. So that's it now. And when he first came, he had books, and nobody seemed to be interested. So that must have been really discouraging, He can do anything and everything that he likes. So here's a question for you then. I've often pondered on this one. See if anyone knows this answer. Krishna can do anything. Can he change the past? Yes, was that a yes? Yeah? How would you qualify that, my dear sir?
Well, take ourselves, for instance. We involve in activities for lifetimes and lifetimes. When we take the Krishna consciousness, none of that means anything anymore. It's been in the past, it's all changed.
Yeah. Well, could he also change the past? Say in the previous life, you'd done some heinous activity and killed, say, 50 people. Could he change that so that you didn't?
Could he create a stone so heavy that he couldn't
Yeah, of course he can do anything. Yeah.
I guess in Krishna's Trikala Gyan, so he's already knowing what's happening.
Yeah.
Right ahead. So there's no concept of
Yeah.
past and future for him.
Yeah.
And also I'm thinking like the record we have of the past, like most of us cannot remember everything we've ever done, for many, many lifetimes. But the reactions are how these are the markers of past activities.
The remnants.
Yeah. So if the reactions aren't there, then the past sort of also really
Nullified. Yeah, also in that sense, yeah, you you have certain things that are due you, and now you've burned off your karma from your past lives, so you can go ahead now unobstructed. So Krishna can do anything. If he's pleased, he can do anything. We have to please him. We have to please the Supreme Lord, then no achievement is wonderful.
I'm thinking as well, we hear in the Gita that Sarvasya Hriday Shani Vishto Matash Pratigyanam Aponam Cha, that Krishna gives remembrance and forgetfulness.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada, I would say that the forgetfulness, he gives Krishna's mercies, he gives forgetfulness of material activities, of material desires.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when we take devotional service, we forget these material inclinations we had. It's similarly like the desire itself comes from the past association. So you see like some sci-fi movie where someone travels back in time and it changes the past, and people they forget this relationship they had, they forget how to do something because the past has changed. So it seems it's similar in devotional service, because you no longer have such a propensity to engage in this illicit activity.
Yeah, well, forgetfulness is interesting because Krishna's in charge of forgetfulness. So if a person is very attached, say you give up smoking and then you're really sad because you don't want to give up smoking. So Krishna doesn't want you sad. He's the well-wishing father of living entity. So then he takes away the memory that you had that smoking was bad for you, and you can continue on. So if you're attached to something, Krishna facilitates the attachment by making you forgetful. Or if you want to get free of that attachment, he facilitates that desire by making you remember him and remember why you wanted. So when you're chanting, there's hearing and there's chanting, and then there's remembering. Remembering is more tricky because Krishna's in control of remembering, and he's allowing you to remember or not remember according to your desire. So that's why our chanting is flickering in the beginning, because we're not always remembering Krishna. If we could remember Krishna all the time, but to remember Krishna all the time, you have to have a strong desire to want to remember Krishna all the time. And the ability to maintain, to sustain a strong desire to want to remember Krishna, even just during japa. Okay, forget every other part of the day, but at least during my japa, can I at least remember Krishna? How often do we not think of Krishna when we're chanting japa? And you've got to get to the stage. There's Shravanam Das, then Smaranam Das, then Apana Das, Udapana, these different stages. So you have to get to the stage with Smarana that you become so absorbed that even when the bead bag goes down, you can't forget Krishna. It's just all the time. He's in the mind, And that takes strong desire and purification to be able to sustain that desire, And then Krishna facilitates, he makes you forget everything. All your anartas, all your attachments, you forget them all. And it becomes like if you had toys when you were a kid, and now I say, oh, wow, look at this, I've just found all your toys. Look, there's that teddy bear that you used to take to bed with you, and there's your duck that you used to play with in the bath. And you're like, yeah, I'm okay now. No, you have a play with it. You go and have a bath and play with the duck, Donald Duck. Remember, you used to have a great time. You used to squeeze him, you used to make a funny noise. Yeah, so I'm okay now. So you move on. Krishna helps you to do that, to mature, so that those childish things no longer interest you, The desires, material desires are very silly, really. It's like, why are you wasting your time with this stuff for? It's all temporary. rubbishy bits of tin and glass, you know, the cars and the houses. It's all really tacky stuff, really. And so as you develop, Krishna gives you the ability to lose the interest in material things, you know. So he's in control of remembrance. And you need his mercy if you're going to remember him. You can't force yourself. Like in the early days, the devotees knew they had to remember Krishna. One of the devotees made this band around his head, and it was a car aerial out here, and on the end of it was blue tacked on a picture of Krishna. So wherever he looked, all he could see was Krishna, to help him remember Krishna, or wherever he was, you know. So you can't do that. You can't force. It's only if Krishna wants you to remember him, he allows it to take place. So you get a chance when you're chanting to beg him, please, allow me to remember you and never to forget you, you know. And if it's a strong, genuine desire, then of course he wants that. But he only wants that if you want it. And if you're playing games with yourself and you're saying, I just want you, Krishna, and then, but, well, that looks nice. I know, but I do really just want you, Krishna, you know. Then Krishna said, well, we'll just leave you with your material desires for now. Jai. Iskon Govinda ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Gaura Premanandi.
His Grace Adhoksaja Krishna Prabhu ki.
All of you ki jai.